Hello, everybody. I'm going to be talking today about developing multi-tenant semantic layers at enterprise scale, specifically at Deel. Talk about how we've developed that foundation at Deel, how we think that developing the semantic multi-tenant architecture will unlock a variety of incredibly robust analytics product experiences on Deel, including agentic workflows as well. So a quick intro first to myself. I'm Elijah Evans. I'm an analytics engineer at Deel. I've been at Deel now for a little over 3.5 years. I own our customer-facing analytics service, which is the input to our analytics product suite on Deel. Well, let me give you some overall context of Deel so you can understand how developing a multi-tenant semantic layer with Q actually plugs into Deel and supports the overall customer experience on Deel. Fundamentally, Deel is building the global infrastructure for work. We process about 22 billion in payroll annually and serve over 35,000 customers and over 1.5 million workers in 150 countries around the world. The idea of Deel is that we are a single platform to manage your entire workforce. That goes from hiring to employment to how someone gets paid to requesting and administering time off, how you get your IT equipment for your job. The idea of doing that in every country around the world means that under the hood, there is an incredible amount of complexity in how all this information is structured and works. When you're trying to manage your workforce across the world, the analytics on Deel has to be great, has to simplify all that complexity so that you and your team can easily understand what is going on across your business and access the information that you need at the exact time that you need access to that information. So this is the overall problem that we're trying to solve. And so as we began to think about how do we develop a solution to this, and we began to think about developing a multi-tenant semantic solution, we really identified three primary problems to solve. First one is probably the most obvious and the most familiar to you, and that is we have to be able to develop a single source of truth on. And this is both a single source of truth as you would think about it in defining a field or defining a join or defining a particular kind of calculation. However, it's also being able to provide a single source of truth for all of the objects that have available analytics information. As we think about deploying an analytics service layer at Deel, we are deploying a service that says this is the single source of truth for if you need analytics information for anything. Item two is Deel as an HRIS is incredibly customizable. And so this is in some ways in conflict with the idea of a semantic structure. The idea of a semantic layer is that things are fixed. You predefine it up front. But at Deel, we also need to be able to inject a robust amount of customization for each organization Deel into the analytics architecture. And third, and probably this is the most important requirement, is we have to be able to support complex permission sets that are unique to each organization. Every organization on Deel can customize who has access to what. They can customize, does this team have access to specifically this subset of information? Does this team get access to a particular field? Can they only see this particular field for people on their team? And so we need to be able to handle this in the multi-tenant semantic infrastructure that our team will build. Maybe speaking specifically about a few more of these items here. When we're talking about a single source of truth, as I was saying, this isn't only how we do joins and aggregations and how different dimensions are defined. This is a single source of truth for every object that is available for analytics at Deel, from an employment to an employment term to a piece of IT equipment to a time off request to a time shift. All of these are defined in the semantic foundation that our team builds. Second, as I was saying, right, our team first defines this standardized semantic structure, but then for every organization, we have to be able to inject customization at compile time. And so maybe these are custom fields. Perhaps this is some customized object. Maybe it's a customized organization structure for that particular organization on Deel. There's all these kinds of customizations that we need to be able to inject into that particular organization's version of this semantic structure. And finally, third, as I was saying, these complex permissions, analytics and the analytics semantic structure that our team provides needs to be completely integrated with an organization's permissions on Deel. And those permissions need to be isolated to each of the tenants and evaluated on each request into that. And obviously, I'm here today to discuss how we did that on Cube, right? And after evaluating a lot of different options, it was our opinion that Cube was the optimal choice to develop this foundational semantic structure. Why? Well, one, Cube allows us to define a semantic structure and optimize it however we want to. But third, Cube allows us to inject anything we want into the compilation process so that we can compile a unique semantic object for every organization or even every team in an organization deal. This allows us over time to develop a highly unique and customized semantic structure that an organization can optimize and tune for themselves and inject in all the kinds of customizations and permissions that that organization has on Deel. So that everything that they have on Deel is also in the analytics architecture. Now let's talk about the different consumers of this at Deel. And the first and perhaps maybe the most obvious one is our reporting and analytics tool. And this is the obvious place to start. We've built an analytics and reporting product on Deel that all of our customers can use to create reports, create charts, create aggregations of those, and things like dashboards and exports. That's the obvious place to start so that a customer can pull the information that their team needs when they need that information. But because we're fundamentally exposing this through an API, we're also really interested in creating those API to API, service to service interactions. There are over 100 engineering teams at Deel, all focused on solving a particular problem for customers on Deel. And sometimes to be able to solve that problem, they need access to high quality analytics information. And in the past, that information was hard to get. It was up to each team to figure out how to get the information that they needed and figure out how to inject complex permission sets or other kinds of customization into that. But now, because we have a standardized semantic layer and a standardized analytics service cube that exposes an API with all those integrations into it, all of the engineering teams across Deel can plug into it and they can retrieve high quality analytics information to solve a problem for customers. And this is great because this unlocks so much opportunity that as a small analytics team, our team wouldn't be able to serve otherwise. And then finally, and this is perhaps the topic of discussion today, is this also creates the foundation for AI agents and other agentic workflows on Deel to be able to get access to easy to understand and easy to use and high quality analytics information. And let's discuss that a little bit more. All right, so as I was saying, we started just creating a semantic layer for fly SQL generation. But as we continue to evolve and grow, we really see this as the semantic foundation for agentic analytics Deel. Why? I think the semantic foundation that we're building in Cube really provides three critical elements that allow agentic workflows to work. The first is this semantic foundation creates the structure for LLMs to understand how this information works. And we have predefined all of the joins. We have said these are the relationships between all of these complex objects. And we can continue to iterate and continue to update that over time and only release the highest quality information that an LLM will be able to easily use. Second is we can inject a significant amount of context into that. And I think about this from a few perspectives. The first perspective is from the human user perspective, right? We need to inject high quality descriptions and hints so that our human users on Deel that are in our reporting and analytics products on Deel can understand a particular object, a particular field. How does this field relate to the operational interface on Deel? When we define an active employee, like what does that mean? And we can provide those descriptions through Cube. But we can also create a customized set of descriptions that are specific to how an LLM will understand and interact with this semantic foundation. And I think that's the thing that is like incredibly exciting to me and why I'm so excited about the customizable aspects of Cube because our team now can tune and hone descriptions and hints and contextual clues and add that in to the semantic structure that our team is building so that LLMs can find information easier. At the end of the day, this all comes down to trust. For us to be able to deploy an agentic workflow that's plugged into analytics information on Deel, there has to be a significant amount of trust that the output of that will be right. We're not going to release something that is only going to be right half of the time, right? The quality of that has to be high for the kinds of use cases and the kind of information that we have as an HRIS and a global work platform. I think about the future of our multi-tenant architecture here. The first is it has to continue to scale well. We're a small team. We would like to develop things one time that we can then release to serve the hundreds of thousands and millions of people. And it has to scale with both the amount of customization and complexity on Deel, and also scale with all of the customers and use cases on the platform as well. Second, it's all about consistency, right? Like the idea of this is to create a single source of truth. If we're ever in a situation in which there isn't consistency, like that is a huge problem. It becomes hard to troubleshoot at scale. And so we're really investing into how we structure our semantic foundation on Cube so that we can ensure that there is a high amount of consistency there. Third is we believe that building this semantic architecture on Cube really puts us in the position of being AI ready. We can tune contextual clues for LLMs. We can create a structured contract for how objects relate to each other. We can uh, create a standard schema evolution process that the LLM is able to understand. And finally, and this is the overarching point, the idea of all of this is that how we're going to develop it is going to be future proof even though some of the most important use cases right now are just about enabling customers to be able to get easier access to information for reporting and analytics. But the foundation we're building should continue to scale to build for agentic interactions across Deel. And I'll end by just talking about our future here. And our belief is that the semantic foundation is everything. The foundation we build is everything to enable all of these other use cases across Deel. And so we're really continuing to double down on ensuring that that foundation is incredibly excellent. As we continue to scale as an organization, as our customer base continues to scale, as our individual customers themselves continue to grow and scale, we're just continuing to invest in ensuring that that analytical and semantic architecture on Cube will help everyone and everything on Deel understand the data on Deel. That means our customers, that means the products and services on Deel, and it means the AI agents that we're continuing to develop on Deel. So that's it for me. I hope that was interesting for you. You can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn at Elijah Evans at Deel. I'd be extremely excited to discuss this with you. Happy to answer any questions you have and even get into the specifics of how we're implementing this. Thank you very much for your time.